Have you ever felt like love just put you through the ultimate test? Like you've been through a fire that either destroyed you or forged you into something completely new? Maybe it was a betrayal that shattered your world. Perhaps a relationship ended and you thought you'd never recover. Or maybe you finally walked away from something toxic, and now you're standing in the aftermath wondering, what now? Here's what most people don't realize. You didn't just survive a breakup or a heartbreak. According to Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, you survived something far more profound. You survived your own psychological death and rebirth. And everything is about to change. I'm going to show you exactly what Jung discovered about these devastating moments in love, why they happen, and most importantly, what this transformation means for your future. Because here's the truth. The person who entered that test, they no longer exist. And the person you're becoming, they're more powerful than you can possibly imagine right now. If you've been through something that broke you open, hit that subscribe button right now. This journey we're about to take together will change how you see everything that happened to you. Act 1. The Dark Night of the Soul. Section 1. What really happened to you? Let me take you back to that moment. You know the one I'm talking about. Maybe you discovered messages you were never supposed to see. Maybe the person you built your life around told you they didn't love you anymore. Or perhaps you finally admitted to yourself that you'd been accepting crumbs when you deserved a feast. In that moment, something inside you shattered. But here's what Carl Jung understood that most people miss. That shattering wasn't just emotional pain. It was what he called psychic death, the complete dissolution of the identity you'd built around that relationship. Think about it. You weren't just someone in a relationship. You had become the girlfriend who always understood him, the boyfriend who could fix anything, the partner who sacrificed everything, the person who believed love meant losing yourself. Your entire sense of who you were had merged with this connection. And when it ended or was betrayed, you didn't just lose a person. You lost your sense of reality itself. Jung called this the dark night of the soul. And if you're watching this video, you've been there. You know that place where 3 a.m. feels like it lasts forever, where every song is about your pain, where you can't imagine ever feeling normal again. Section 2. The shadow emerges. But something else happened during your darkest moments, something you probably didn't recognize at the time. Jung discovered that when our conscious identity breaks down, something emerges from the depths of our psyche. He called it the shadow, all the parts of ourselves we'd hidden away, denied or never acknowledged. Not physically, but psychologically. And here's what's incredible. You let it happen. You survived the unsurvivable. You walked through fire and kept breathing. But surviving was just the beginning. Because what Jung discovered was that after the death comes something extraordinary. And that's where your real story begins. Act 2. The Transformation Process. Section 1. The Individuation Process. Carl Jung spent his entire career studying one fundamental question. How does a person become who they truly are? He called this process individuation, the journey of integrating all parts of yourself into a complete, authentic whole. And here's the paradox. Most people never individuate. They live their entire lives wearing masks, playing roles, becoming who others need them to be. But you don't have that luxury anymore. When that relationship shattered, it destroyed the mask. You can't go back to pretending. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you now know about yourself. This is actually the gift, though it doesn't feel like one yet. Jung believed that suffering in love, especially the kind of suffering that breaks us open, is often the universe's way of forcing us to finally meet ourselves. Section 2. Integration of the opposites. Now, let's talk about something profound that's happening inside you right now. even if you can't feel it yet. Jung discovered that psychological wholeness comes from integrating opposites. And love is the ultimate playing field for opposites. Independence versus connection. You're learning you can be whole and in relationship. Vulnerability versus boundaries. You can be open-hearted without being a doormat. Giving versus receiving. You're worthy of receiving the same love you give. Masculine versus feminine energies. You're balancing strength with softness within yourself. Before this test, you probably swung between extremes. Maybe you gave everything and received nothing. Maybe you built walls so high nobody could reach you. Maybe you lost yourself completely or never let anyone in at all. But something's shifting now. You're finding a middle path you never knew existed. You're discovering you can love deeply without losing yourself. You can be strong without being cold. You can be soft without being weak. You can want partnership without needing to complete you. This is integration. This is wholeness. This is what Jung called the transcendent function, the ability to hold two opposing truths simultaneously and become something greater than both. Section 3. The Anima-Animus Awakening. Here's where Jung's work gets really interesting for love and relationships. He believed that within every person exists both masculine and feminine psychological energies, what he called the animus and anima. And most of our relationship problems come from projecting these internal qualities onto external partners. Let me break this down in plain English. Remember how that person seemed perfect at first? Like they completed you? Like they were everything you'd been searching for? That wasn't really about them. That was you meeting parts of yourself you'd never developed, projected onto another person. Maybe they were confident and you felt insecure, so you clung to their strength instead of building your own. Maybe they were creative and free-spirited while you felt stuck, so you lived vicariously through them instead of pursuing your own dreams. The test you survived forced you to take those projections back, to stop looking for completion in another person and start developing those qualities within yourself. This is why everything feels so different now. You're not looking for someone to complete you anymore. You're becoming complete on your own. And that changes absolutely everything about how you'll love in the future. Section 4. The Wounded Healer. Jung had another powerful concept, the wounded healer archetype. The idea is simple but profound. Your deepest wounds become your greatest gifts. The places where you broke become the places where you're strongest. The pain you survive becomes the wisdom you share. Think about the person you were before this happened. You might have given advice about love, but it was theoretical. You might have thought you understood heartbreak, but you didn't really know. Now you know. In your bones, in your soul, you know. You know what it's like to love someone who can't love you back. You know what it's like to compromise yourself into nothingness. You know what it's like to finally choose yourself even when it's the hardest choice you've ever made. This knowingness earned wisdom. It's not just for you. You're becoming someone who can hold space for others. Pain because you've sat in your own. You're becoming someone who can spot red flags because you've been waving them yourself. You're becoming someone who speaks truth because you've lived the cost of living lies. So what does all this mean for your future? What's actually changed? Let's talk about what comes next. Act 3. Everything changes now. Section 1. Your new relationship blueprint. The old you approached relationships from need. The new you approaches them from wholeness. Let me show you what this means practically. Before the test, you saw red flags and made excuses. You sacrificed your needs to keep the peace. You believed love meant giving until you had nothing left. You thought jealousy meant passion. You stayed because leaving felt impossible. After the test, you see red flags and take them seriously the first time. You state your needs clearly and without apology. You understand love is about mutual nourishment. You know security comes from within. You stay because you choose to, not because you're afraid to leave. This isn't theory. This is rewiring. Your nervous system has learned that you can survive loss, which means you're no longer making decisions from fear of abandonment. Jung called this developing your psychic immune system. You've built antibodies against toxic patterns. You're not immune to love, you're immune to settling for less than you deserve. Section 2. The magnetism of wholeness. Now here's something nobody tells you about this transformation. You become magnetic in a completely different way. Before, you might have been attractive in a rescuer-victim dynamic. People were drawn to your neediness or your willingness to fix them. You attracted partners who wanted someone to complete them or someone to lean on entirely. But now, you're attracting something different. When you stop looking for someone to complete you, you stop attracting incomplete people. When you heal your wounds instead of expecting someone else to heal them, you stop attracting wounded people who want you to be their therapist. Jung understood this perfectly. We attract our psychological equals. When you were fragmented, you attracted fragmented people. Now that you're integrating, you attract integrated people. This is why you might notice that people from your past suddenly seem different when they try to come back. They haven't changed, you have. You can see clearly now what you couldn't see before. And new people entering your life? They're operating at a different frequency. They have done their own work. They show up consistently. They respect boundaries. They communicate clearly. They're not perfect, nobody is, but they're conscious. They're trying. Section 3. The inner marriage. Jung had a beautiful concept. He called the inner marriage the integration of all parts of yourself into a harmonious whole. This is the real relationship you've been building through all this pain, the relationship with yourself. Think of yourself as a house. Before this test, you'd given away all the keys. Other people had access to every room, could rearrange your furniture, could even tear down walls. You had no locks, no boundaries, no sense of what was yours alone. The test forced you to change the locks, to reclaim your space, to decide who gets access to which rooms and under what conditions. But more than that, you started actually living in your house instead of just maintaining it for visitors. You decorated it for yourself. You created spaces for your own joy. You locked some doors and said, "This room is just for me." This means you have hobbies and interests that are yours alone. You don't need permission to live your life. You have an emotional life that doesn't revolve around a relationship. You can be happy on a Saturday night alone. Your peace is non-negotiable. Your self-worth isn't determined by someone else's opinion. This is the inner marriage being complete within yourself. And paradoxically, this is what makes you ready for a true partnership. Section 4. Conscious love. So what does love look like on the other side of this transformation? Jung called it conscious love, a relationship between two whole people who choose each other from clarity, not need. Imagine this. You meet someone and there's attraction, but you're not swept away in fantasy. You see them clearly, their strengths and their limitations, and they see you the same way. There's chemistry, but it's not the chaotic, obsessive kind. It's a warm, steady fire that sustains rather than burns. You have conflicts, but you don't threaten to leave. You communicate, repair, and grow stronger through the challenges. You maintain your own identity. You have separate friends, separate interests, separate emotional lives. And this doesn't threaten the relationship, it enriches it. You give freely, but never from depletion. You receive openly, but never from desperation. This is what was always possible, but never accessible until you did this inner work. The old you would have found this kind of relationship boring, too stable, too healthy, too simple. But the new you? You recognize this as the kind of love that actually lasts, that actually nourishes, that actually honors the journey you've been on. You've graduated from dramatic love to sustainable love, from consuming passion to conscious partnership, from losing yourself to finding each other while remaining whole. So let me bring this all together. You survived your biggest test in love. And Jung would tell you that this wasn't just about that relationship. This was about you finally becoming who you were always meant to be. Everything you went through, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the nights you thought you'd never recover, the moment you finally chose yourself, it was all preparation. You weren't being broken. You were being broken open. You weren't being destroyed. You were being reconstructed. You weren't losing love. You were learning what love actually is. And now, standing on the other side, you're not the same person who entered that fire. You're someone who knows their worth, someone who trusts their intuition, someone who can love deeply without losing themselves, someone who can walk away from what doesn't serve them, someone who takes responsibility for their own healing instead of expecting someone else to do it. The universe didn't put you through this because it was cruel. It put you through this because you were ready to evolve even if you didn't know it. And you did. You actually did the impossible thing. You integrated your shadow. You reclaimed your projections. You healed your wounds. You individuated. Everything changes now because you've changed. The world hasn't shifted, your relationship with it has. If this resonated with you, if you see yourself in this journey, do 3 things right now. First, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel is dedicated to psychological transformation and conscious living. You're exactly where you need to be. Second, leave a comment below with one word that describes how you feel right now after watching this. Just one word. Let's create a community of people who've survived their own fires. And third, share this video with someone who's going through their own test right now. Don't explain it, just send it. Sometimes people need to hear that what they're going through isn't the end. It's the beginning of everything. You survived. And survival was never the end goal. It was the doorway to the life you were always meant to live. Welcome home to yourself. I'll see you in the next video.